Welcome. Today I am having a conversation with Diane Daily. And Diane, before we get started, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
My name is Diane Daily. I am a CPA. I specialize in construction accounting, and I have been doing this for about, I would say, 28 to 30 years.
And before we actually met, were there things going on in your firm maybe that were frustrating for you, or that you just felt if you continued this way, it wouldn't be sustainable?
Yes, because I was doing a lot of work, as you have pointed out to me, that I wasn't charging for. And I also was getting underpaid. So that was very frustrating. It's very frustrating, in the long run when you're trying to constantly cover payroll, like you're chasing money to cover payroll.
Mm-hmm. That's exhausting.
It is, it is.
And because you've been a firm owner for quite a while now, was there maybe a turning point that came to light where I just can't do it? I need to make a change because this isn't working anymore.
Yes, I was away actually by myself in November in Florida, and I just was working one day. And actually, what happened was there's these new programs that I need to get. So I'm like, okay, how am I paying for these? And I'm thinking, I need to increase my fees in order to just be able to survive. So it's like a light bulb went off in my head. And that's when I decided I needed to make some changes, going forward if I wanted to keep continuing in business for myself.
And one of the things that I've seen repeatedly is that no matter what size your firm is, whether you're solo, big four, it's not like you think about making a change as far as your pricing goes today and you implement it tomorrow. There's usually some gap between the first thought and the implementation. So how long has this been on your mind before you decided to do something?
I would say probably about it had my mind, I would say for at least when I ended tax season in 24. That's when I started. And when it came to light, I was actually talking to another client that you deal with, and she was actually explaining to me how much you helped her. So that's when I started moving in the right direction.
Okay. Uh, then let me ask it a different way. Were you aware that you were undercharging for a while before 2024?
Oh, yes, always. I
Uh,
was always doing work, always, always, always doing extra work for people and not charging. Always.
okay, so that's been ongoing. And then also, were there things that you were doing without any compensation whatsoever?
Oh, yes, for sure. Like a union audit, if someone has a union audit, they pretty much prepare for it, but I deal with the auditors. Well, if I'm dealing with it, I should be charging for that. And I just wasn't. I just was dealing with it and just saying, oh, they're already paying me, it's fine, but I'm not doing that anymore.
I'm happy to hear that. Okay, then if you were realizing you were undercharged for quite some time and that you, at the end of 2024, you decided to make a change, were there any hesitations actually before you jumped into doing the work together to raise your rates?
A little bit because I do lack a little bit of self-confidence.
Mm-hmm.
So I did need to, to me, I have gained more self-confidence from talking to you because I don't know, you keep telling me that I am worth what I should be charging. So, it really was a self-confidence thing and trying to go to my clients. I always also, I love what I do, but I hate the money part.
Mm-hmm.
So, that was my biggest tackle was trying to get over that hurdle of, okay, you are in business, you need to deal with the money part. Like, get with the program.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so if you were your own client, because I know you give really great business advice to your clients all the time, and you saw your client doing something like this or in this situation, what would you have advised them to do?
Oh, you have to charge extra for this. You don't work for free.
Uh, it's like the cowboy shoes, right?
Correct, correct. 100%.
Mhm. And I want to bring it up because the knowing what to do and actually implementing it is really, really difficult.
You are correct.
This
You are
isn't an
one.
easy process, so I want to be very honest and upfront about that.
Yes, and you actually were able to provide me with tools that would help me prepare for that conversation, which again, in my opinion, really helped build my self-confidence. Like I was preparing, you were helping me prepare for these discussions, which in the long run really paid off.
Mhm. Aside from the tools or the resources, was there anything else that you found beneficial with actually making this happen?
Um, yes, because now I feel like if I'm giving my employees a raise, I'm not worried about where I'm getting that money from.
Mm.
You
Mhm.
know, I actually am at a point where I can give myself a raise. So that's actually a nice benefit that I haven't had in quite some time. I haven't really been able to give myself an increase. Sometimes I wouldn't pay myself at all.
You know what, you need to take care of your people first, otherwise it's gonna all fall. There's a course one way or the other. It's either time or money. So I
Yes.
totally get that. And now that let's talk about you ripped the Band-Aid off pretty quickly, Diane.
Yes, I did.
So once we started working together, how long did it take you to actually implement and start raising your rates with your clients?
What I was doing is I was preparing, and then as I was having my draft meetings, when I prepare financial statements for a client, I go in or we do a virtual draft meeting.
Mhm.
So that's when I actually would go to the client and bring up the conversation. I actually would start asking them like where my value, how they saw my value in the
Mhm.
firm, which a lot of times with helping, I mean, with their company, a lot of times as people were talking, it kind of set a light bulb off in their head. And they, wow, she is very beneficial to my company. So, it was a smooth, it wasn't really that hard of a transition. Now, don't get me wrong, there were a few clients
Mhm.
that did hesitate,
Sure.
but again, I used your tools. I did not make it go for in perpetuity. I would say, let's meet again next week. So I actually, the one client that was very hesitant, I knew he wasn't going to bring it up again. So when I went back in the following week, I brought it up. And I
Mhm.
was like, have we decided? And that's where the discussion, it wasn't an easy discussion, but we had it and it worked to my benefit.
Mhm. So you knew how to structure the conversation, how to follow up so that this was something maybe you put out there, but it's uncomfortable and you didn't want to get into those uncomfortable conversations again. So you had the
Correct.
structure for this.
Yes.
Okay. And okay, then let me ask you in a different way. About how long before, since we started working together, did you start seeing the revenue increase? You were able to start raising rates with your clients?
I'm going to say, I think we started in January, February.
Mhm.
I I'm going to say it wasn't even 30 days.
Okay.
Wasn't even 30 days.
Okay, so you started seeing return on the investment of our work together within about 30 days. Let's go into either numbers or percentages or something like that. We're talking about the accounting profession, so we need something really concrete.
Yes.
Tell me some of the changes that you've seen regarding revenue or something else because of you making this happen.
So to me, it's two key things. Number
Mhm.
one, I'm already up in $75,000 of revenue, and I'm not done yet. I still have 4 clients to approach, which if I do that, I probably will be about 125,000 to $140,000 in revenue. And the other nice change, which is so pleasant to me, I can pay my bills, I can pay for payroll, and I still have a very nice balance in my checking account. I can sleep at night. I'm not worried about covering, oh, you know, for like right now, I started my business in May.
Mm-hmm.
So every year, my renewals for everything come due in May. In prior years, I'm calling people, oh, I need you to pay I need you to pay my bills, need you to pay my bills. I don't have to do that now. I already have the money in my checking account.
Then I just want to clarify, what I'm hearing also is you went from invoicing to a prepayment model. Is that correct?
Correct.
Uh,
Yes, correct.
So not only are you up already 75K, maybe about 125K, but you went from getting invoicing and getting paid in arrears to now you're getting prepaid for your services.
Correct. And just to let you know, that's $70,000. I mean, it didn't take months for me to increase that 70. It literally took weeks. I mean,
Mhm.
weeks.
Mhm.
It was a wonderful feeling. I mean, seriously, getting in my car after a meeting and somebody agreeing to a higher fee, it's just like, yay.
It's nice to have a $10,000 day, right?
Yes, it really is.
And what about your clients? Did they all transition to new fees or did you have some attrition?
I still have a few that I need to discuss it with. Um, I have a client that's in trouble, so I'm not really sure how that's going to go forward, but I would say the majority, I would say out of my clients, I would say 75% I've seen increases for,
Mhm.
and I'm trying to get it up to 100%.
Okay. With the people that you've already talked to about the fees, because it sounds like there's some people you haven't approached yet, with the people you've
Correct.
already talked to, what percentage of those people that you already spoke to have converted or did some of them move on?
Oh, okay. 100%, no one moved on. In
Oh,
fact,
everybody converted.
everybody converted. In fact, besides the one client that I already knew I was going to have a problem with, I did discuss this other client with you that I said, yes, I guarantee you she's going to leave. Wasn't even, I mean, she hesitated a little bit, but her husband, I asked them again how they saw my value, and her husband was like, look, she deserves every penny she gets. So I really thought they were going to leave, and they
Mhm.
ended up not leaving. It was seriously 100% of people that I have talked to have transitioned to the new fees, and they are still with me.
Okay, then this means that you've brought in already another $75,000 in revenue with no additional time spent working.
Correct. Correct. Which is nice. It's very
Mhm.
nice.
I think I told you when we first had this initial consultation before we started working together, that the money that you wanted to bring in was already in your firm.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. It was there. I just needed to, as they say, poke the bear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what I needed to do. I needed to poke the bear.
And I want to say that this whole process takes courage, not
Yes,
confidence. The confidence comes later.
I agree. In my opinion, you have to value yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to value yourself. And once you value yourself, then having these conversations really isn't that difficult. Because I'm starting to get your philosophy. They can move on. I'll just pick up another client that will have no problem paying my fees because we'll do the discussion early on. We'll have our 90-day period, where they're kind of on probation to see if I even want the client,
Mm-hmm.
and you've actually provided me tools with how to do that 90-day. And, one of the things that you had told me that I've never done before was prior to taking on a client, ask them for certain financial information and actually charge them for that review. I would have never done that before.
Can
Never.
you go a little bit more into that? Because there might be people that you're inspiring right now that aren't really clear in what you're talking about as far as asking for financial information.
So to me, you're going to find out if they're really going to be a good client, for yourselves, in my opinion, with how they respond to that very first question. So if you can say to them, okay, I want, let's say $2,000 to review your information. If I come across anything where you need an amended return, we can address it at that point. But if the person hesitates right off the bat with that $2,000 fee, I guarantee you they're not ever going to see your value. So they're not really going to be a good client to take on. Where if people don't hesitate and they're like, yep, no problem. I already see the value in that client because they see the value in me. That's how I look at it.
And the process that you're talking about is a paid diagnostic review.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. I'm doing a diagnostic review, not only, and I really don't take on clients just for tax returns. My client base is more financial statements. So I can even look at their financial statement and say, oh, your accountant didn't do this right. Your accountant didn't do that right. Especially if they don't have an accountant that specializes in construction, because construction is a whole different animal. And again, as you have told me, and I do use as one of my tools, I have a specialty. So people should be paying me for that specialty because I do have I'm 58. I'm going to tell you, I have over 40 years of experience in construction.
Right, right. The other thing that you mentioned, and I want to be able to bring it up also, is about the fact that you no longer feel like you need to accept all clients who are willing to pay your fees.
Correct.
So you now have boundaries that you didn't have before.
No, never had those boundaries. If somebody referred a client to me, I would go in, we would review things which I wouldn't be paid for. And, and then we would just start the relationship. It was just this step, this step, this step. And now I have changed that whole way of bringing in a new client.
And this means that you're now starting to take charge of your firm instead of having your firm take charge of you. So any ways that you notice that you're showing up differently with your clients because of this whole change and this increased confidence that you're having?
One thing is I'm not really visiting them in person as much. I'm doing more virtual, which if you think about it, as you're a CPA, if you don't have to travel and you don't have to go to the client, sit in traffic, that's actually more money in your pocket. So I've, changed over doing virtually, and, I'm trying to put more actually on them, which again, less time that I have to spend is more money in my pocket.
Nice. And anything that you plan to continue doing to really maybe fine tune your system so that we can continue to increase the value of a client, so that your firm's more profitable?
Yes, for the 2025 year end and tax season, I'm implementing with my tax program. It's sort of like an AI where I scan all the 1040 back up, they input it all, and then once we get it back, we just have to review it, hit a button, and put it in. That saves a lot of time for, the data entry on 1040s, because I'm not really a fan of 1040s.
Okay, now if you were previously connecting your fees to time and this would speed up the process, would you have charged your clients a lower fee?
Probably not.
Okay. I just want to, connecting your fees to time is one of the things that when you're more efficient, you kind of get punished for that.
Exactly. That's why the value pricing is so much better than hourly pricing, because you're seeing your value. So you're actually just building everything in, but then you do need to revisit it every year, and you have to check, what do you call it? Scope creep, right? You have to check that you're staying within your scope. So you really do need to talk to your employees, explain to them the boundaries of what they're supposed to be doing. And if they feel like they're going outside of that boundary, that scope creep, you need to go back and address those issues with your clients in order to increase the fees.
Mhm.
But
Okay.
you are correct. The more efficient you are, the more money you're going to make.
The more profitable. And I think you brought up a important point, whether it's you and you tend to be a people pleaser and you're very client centered, or if you have a team who might be extremely client centered, that your client's still going to make requests, even though you might have structure in a package. And it's now up to your firm and your team to make sure that they're comparing the request to what's in the package. And if it's not in the package, there needs to be a process in place to address it.
Correct.
Mhm. So,
Which I do put that actually in my engagement letters. Like I used to put it in there before, but I'm actually really stressing that to people when I go out with the engagement letter. You know,
mhm,
I'm like, this is your scope. But if we do go outside the scope, I will have to come back and either charge you for that specific task that you need me to do, or if it's something that's going to continue, then we're going to need to include that in your package and increase your fee.
mhm. And so now you have the structure and it sounds like you've been able to put that process in place for when these out of scope requests come in.
Yes,
Mhm.
and I can give you a perfect example of
Yeah,
that right now.
go
New
for it.
Jersey, yeah, New Jersey, since I'm in Pennsylvania and we're very close to New Jersey and New York, you have to file some things online. Well, one of the things that New Jersey just did was they put a new portal in place. My employee, all morning that I was in the office, was working on that all day. So I finally, when I walked out the door this morning, I said to her, do me a favor, keep track of your time that it's taking you to set up these portals for each client, because I'm going to come up with a standard fee and just address it with the client and say, look, I needed to set up this portal. So with that, you know, it took Deborah this amount of, not even time. The fee for this is such and such.
Yeah.
So I'm not, that does not fit into their package, something
Mhm.
new. So they will be paying me additional for that.
Now, one of the things that this means is that you now have the process in place to charge a setup fee when you need to get new software installed or set up. And as you mentioned, it's not about how much time it takes, it's about the fact that you're doing it accurately and correctly for the
Correct.
benefit of the client.
Right, because Deborah was having issues even trying to get the portal set
Right.
up. So that would have caused and this is how I'm going to approach it with the clients.
Mhm.
I'm going to say that would have caused your employee being taken away from their daily tasks
Right.
in order to set up this portal, which I did it as a concierge service, you know,
Mhm.
so therefore you're going to pay me for that.
Mhm. The investment.
Yes.
Um, it's always my preference to use the word investment instead of paid.
Yes,
So much
yes,
better.
yes, yes.
Any mindset shifts that you have noticed for yourself, Diane? Because from when we first met a couple months ago to now, I see big differences in how you're showing up. What have you noticed?
I do notice that, to be honest with you, before we actually started working together, I was starting to dread going to work. I
Mhm.
work for myself. Why would I dread going to work if I work for myself? But when you're working and you're not getting compensated for your investment, then it really personally it's very depressing. It's
Mhm.
very, very depressing. And now I do enjoy going to work because I do feel that as soon as I open up my eyes, I made money. So, so it's just a nice, and I'm just approaching things differently. When clients call me and ask me things, I'm trying to put it more back on them and doing
Mhm.
it internally. So it's taking work off of my plate. The other thing that, not that we really talked about this, but I know eventually we're going to, I am also a control freak, which probably a lot of CPAs are. Um, I have learned a lot more over the last few months to delegate. to delegate to my lower staffed employees instead of me just doing it all myself.
Mhm.
So, and again, what is that going to do? Your employees are getting paid less than what you are. So there you go. Your investment is even bigger because now you're not working on it. You have
Mhm.
a lower paid employee in your firm working on it. So, I'm using different tools. I just think my life is a lot easier now.
And let's kind of talk about that because as a firm owner, it's not like you have your 9 to 5 here and when you shut down the computer, it's done and you move on. There's this ebb and flow, and if something's a little bit off at work, it kind of creeps into your personal life. So is there any changes in your business or even in your personal life that you've noticed that you're actually really proud about?
Yes, I am, because I am going to book a riverboat cruise with Viking that's very expensive and I can afford it now.
Wonderful. Are you taking your husband?
Yes, I am.
That's
I may
good.
throw him overboard, but yes, he is.
No, no. That is wonderful. And where are you going?
We're going to start in Switzerland, and then we go through Germany, and then we go into Holland, and then we end up in Amsterdam. Everybody, and I've always wanted to do this, and I'm like, you know what? I actually can do this now without touching my personal savings. I actually can do this with the earnings that I have put in together with my investment from these packages and having the money upfront,
That
having
is
prepaid
amazing.
payments.
I am so happy that you're able to do this because as a firm owner, I believe that you sacrifice so much. You've taken a risk that most people would never ever take, leaving the safety and security of a 9 to 5 to having your own business, and that you deserve to have a business that raises your quality life instead of one that could suck the life out of you because your firm will take as much as you're willing to give.
And I agree. I agree with that. The other thing I've actually implemented, I would answer emails on weekend. I would take
Mhm.
phone calls after, it was like I was a 24/7. I'm not doing that anymore. There's nothing, first of all, if you're a CPA, think about it this way. If somebody calls you at 7 o'clock at night, there's nothing open. So there's nothing that cannot wait until the next morning.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I have received text, why aren't you answering your phone? And I just respond politely, I will deal with this in the morning. Like, it's just the way you approach things, I personally feel. So I have had a lot more free time that way, setting boundaries.
Mhm.
Now,
Mhm.
even though you have your own business, you do still need to set boundaries because, like you said, it's more, in my opinion, it just makes you happier in the long run.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. If someone texts you on Sunday at 8:15 at night, it's not that you need to drop everything that you're doing and reply.
Right, right, exactly.
There's no crisis that actually happens after banking hours in the financial world.
Correct, exactly. And if somebody gets an IRS notice, believe me, you're not getting that resolved within a matter of 24 hours. So,
Mhm.
it can wait. Everything can wait. And
Mhm.
the other thing I've also done before, would get very distracted with my emails. I always have dual screens. If an email comes in, forget it. I'm stopping what I'm doing and I'm addressing the email. I don't do that anymore. I tell myself, okay, I'm going to address this email at least within a 24-hour period. And to me, nobody has really complained about it. So I may push it even a little further. It may be
Mhm.
48 hours. So it's working to my advantage because I can concentrate on the task at hand.
Mhm. Absolutely, which makes you actually more effective.
Yes, yes.
Okay, Diane, anything else that we haven't touched on that you wanted to mention?
I just want to say, for people that see this, you are a very big tool to my business. And I am very thankful that I've reached out to you. I'm very thankful that another one of your clients, she gave me your information and I reached out and I actually took the leap because it wasn't even a hesitation. I just had to decide which package I wanted to deal with you, and you gave me 24 hours.
Mhm.
And, as I said to you, I needed to discuss it with my husband, but technically I need things to sink in a little bit. But I just think you're a very big asset to my company, and I'm very, very thankful for you, to you for taking me on as a client and helping me, grow my business without taking on any additional clients.
I really appreciate that, and I feel very honored to be part of your inner circle.
Thank you.
Because trust needs to be earned. It doesn't just come, with as a knee-jerk reaction. So it's something that's earned. So thank you for that.
Correct. Correct.
Okay, if you inspired somebody, they want to get in touch with you, what is the best way for them to do that, Diane?
You can contact me on my cell phone, 215-680-7343, or what I would prefer is contacting me through email, which would be Diane, Diane, at D as in dog, AILYASSOC.com. That's Diane at dailyassociate.com. So they would be the best two ways to get a hold of me.
Perfect. I so appreciate you sharing that. Diane, thank you so much. I really appreciate you sharing about your experience and the changes that you've made in a really short period of time. That this hasn't
Yes.
been a long, drawn out, painful process. It was probably more painful dealing with the low rates and the undercompensation.
You are correct. And wait, and not getting paid.
I totally get that. So
Yes.
anyway, this is Lauren Fogelman with Business Success Solutions, showing firm owners how to double their income working half the time.